Did you know that it's actually not that hard to get good at any skill? The only problem is that you just don't know how to. Which is why I'm going to teach you 5 simple tricks, the same tricks that taught me 3 different instruments in 6 years. And these tricks can work with any skill. Storytelling, music, language, you name it. But first, I gotta tell you about a vital mistake you're probably making when it comes to learning a new skill. When I was 17, it was my dream to become a platinum selling musician. And I've had that dream ever since I was 15. However, I had one vital problem in my way. I had no idea how to songwrite. So I thought in my mind, I'll have to master this skill early. So I made a goal where I would spend 10 hours every day mastering songwriting. But little did I know, I'd made a massive mistake. To give context, when I was trying to master songwriting, every day I started to get more frustrated, annoyed that I wasn't learning enough. So after a month of trying to learn, I gave up and quit. I threw in the towel. The mistake that I had made was an extremely common one, and that's the hours makes results fallacy. Why is this a mistake? Your time is valuable and you should use it. It is valuable. However, I'd put too much importance onto the hours of the practice to the point where every hour I spent learning the skill was to absolute waste. So how do we prevent this from happening? Well, with the 5 tricks in this video, they are all designed to optimize your work hours. And the more quality the hours are, the more you gain out of it. So let's start with the first trick. To explain this trick, I'm going to have to introduce a character I got from the book Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. Introducing Sara Maria. Maria was born in an El Salvadorian family in the United States. I want you to guess what language they spoken in the household. Easy, Espanol, right? Wrong. Her family actually spoke English, just English. Now the reason this was a problem was because Sara Maria wanted to become a bilingualist. However, when she took Spanish classes in high school, she would struggle to learn her own language, to the point where even after 6 years of learning Spanish, she remained only knowing how to speak English. So she must have been doing something wrong. Eventually, she hits 21, and this is where she decides to change one thing. And as a result, not only does she now know how to speak Spanish fluently, she now knows 7 different languages. How did she get there? Well, it's actually laughably simple. You see, there are certain tasks your brain likes to avoid because they seem too daunting. However, when you avoid those tasks, you are missing out on the greatest piece of progress you could ever make. So what do we do about this? Well, first, we need to start finding that discomfort and lean into it as much as possible. For example, with YouTube, I found researching hooks to be very uncomfortable because it would shatter my ego. But eventually I learned to lean into that discomfort and decided to learn hook writing anyway. And now my audience retention is the highest it's ever been. Now, did you notice something about my story as well as Sara Maria's story? Discomfort tells you which tasks are more important than others. Okay, but I struggle to lean into discomfort. Well, with this next trick, we will make this a whole lot easier for you. The common mistake that people make is that when they lean into discomfort, they actually force themselves into it, which you can learn a lot from forcing yourself into discomfort. However, when it comes to trying to consistently do a habit, such as reading or developing a skill, you end up never doing it. I ran into this exact same problem. One day, I wanted to incorporate reading as a daily habit, so I decided to read that day. And I read for 20 minutes, and then I made a promise to read the next day. So far, off to a pretty good start. However, when I read the next day, I felt a sense of resistance. And what happened there is that the resistance made me stop reading altogether, which meant I'd failed to incorporate the habit. What was I doing wrong? Well, I thought I had to break through the resistance barrier, but in reality, I had to do this. Eventually, like around a week ago, I decided I wanted to read this book that my grandparents had given me. And initially, I read the first 2 chapters, and I did enjoy it. However, the book had gave me a tip, and when I applied the tip, I finished the book in 4 days. What made me read through the entire thing? Well, we're going to do this. Instead of seeing the task as a discipline, we are going to reframe the task. We're going to trick our minds into thinking that the task is pleasurable. How do we do that? Well, first, you want to tell your mind that the task is actually enjoyable. And then after that, you want to find a reason why. For me, I told myself that reading is just as pleasurable as watching a YouTube video. And especially because I would gain a lot of fascinating knowledge out of it. And what happened is that it made the book so irresistible. And the best part about this trick is that when I applied this onto my reading, I subconsciously started to pay more attention to the book. And I actually learned more from it as a result. So what this trick does is that it actually causes your brain to invest more energy and value onto the task, which increases the output. However, this tip has a massive problem, which we're going to counter with this next trick. When I was getting really good at bass, I was improving in the usual areas: technique, ability to learn songs, improv, and I got good at those traits. However, that also came at a cost, because there's this interesting fact that I bet you didn't know. In Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, he explains something that caught my attention when I read it. In one study of Korean salespeople, we found that the more they loved their favorite task in their job, the worse they performed at their least favorite task. This related to me because when I was practicing bass, I really loved doing technique and improv, but this caused me to ignore sheet music because I didn't enjoy it. So you're probably wondering, is there a way to counter this? And luckily there is. You see, the reason why we leverage certain tasks is because we enjoy them more. What we're going to do is that we're going to reframe the task we enjoy the least. This is similar to the last tip, except there's a twist. First of all, we want to attach a reason to that task, and it must be a good reason. If it's something like, I have to do it because it's important, then that won't work. So what we're going to do is that we're going to attach a powerful reason. One that comes to mind is, I find it fun because it's awesome that I can actually understand it, or sight reading is a fun way of learning a song. What makes those reasons so unique is that they're more personal. If I were to apply this to learning sheet music, I would get more value out of it. But that's not the only thing we're going to do here. This is what will really propel you to the task. Now it's time to add on a little challenge. With this challenge, you don't want to make it too daunting. Instead, you want to treat it like a personal best score. Let's take an example. With sheet music, I'm going to challenge myself to sight read the sheet music. And every time I sight read it, I have to make less mistakes than before. That actually sounds fun when I think about it. But what this does is that it actually increases the quality of your work hours and further attaches you to the work. Now this next point is something you must take note of, because a lot of people focus on one thing for so long and wonder why they haven't made enough progress. If you make this one slight change, then you can greatly shorten the amount of time it will take for you to achieve something. So to explain this tip, I'm going to use myself as an example. When I started this YouTube channel, initially I was making unedited videos where I would poorly explain something to the audience. And as well as that, I was pumping 5 different YouTube reels every day. I thought that I could blow my channel up by spamming YouTube shorts. However, instead of my channel blowing up, my videos and my YouTube shorts went nowhere. Eventually, I realized I was going in the wrong direction, and I started to focus on my videos more. And I started to gain some progress, but not enough. However, I wasn't completely doing it correctly because my videos still needed great improvement. So what I did is that I focused my full energy onto editing, just editing. I was putting myself in the wrong direction again. And what I wouldn't realize for a year is that the thing that matters most is the script. So I pivoted again. And now I'm making the most gains I've made on this channel. Now, what's the thing that propelled me forward? You see, when you try to achieve ambitious things, you don't have a map with you, just naturally. This causes us to focus on the wrong path. So what's the solution? Well, to direct you back onto the path, we're going to use what's called a compass. In other words, a blueprint towards your goal. A good example is the story I just explained. I kept pivoting because I kept making mistakes. And that's what a compass is. It points you in the right direction. What you want to do is that you want to find as much of them as possible and use them, because a single compass can change your progress by a lot. Now we're onto our 5th and final trick. And this is an important trick, so I want you to listen closely because this difference is extra mental. So when I graduated, I made an oath to focus solely on YouTube. It was my primary focus because I wanted to make good content. However, my videos are extremely lackluster. And every time I would make videos, it would feel like an uphill battle. Why was that? Well, fast forward to when the year eventually ended, I decided I want to quit gaming fully. And what happened after this? When I quit gaming, making videos started to feel less like an uphill battle. Why did that happen? Well, your habits actually determine your ability to work effectively. So what you want to do is that you want to minimize all of your bad habits as much as possible. And not only that, there are certain habits that will boost your work and your output. Things like meditation, grounding, practicing a skill, spending time walking around. The reason these work is because they re-engage your brain, which means you can use that to your fullest ability. Keep never quitting.